before we go any further, dude, tell the audience like how many basses you've got. Just out yourself. Come on, just feel clean. Cleanse yourself.
Never enough. What's the dude, what's the equation? The proper number of basses to have is n+1. Right? is the number you have plus one. Dude, and whenever I even get another one, it's like I'm never satisfied, Scott. I'm never satisfied. It's like, oh, okay, we'll tick the box there. Now I've got that one covered. But I remember like at one point Emily saying to me, you should like sit down and enjoy that one. And I'm like, no, there's no enjoyment to be had. This is just I'm going to set it here and it's going to look great in the thing. And then it's on to the next one. And that's just,
so much, just context for everybody. Ian and I are like digital pen pals, and we send each other videos back and forward on this like app called Loom, which is really cool, isn't it? Like, it's freaking cool.
It's so cool, man. I love Loom. Yeah, I do.
We've got it on our phones. We can just have an idea, record it, and then just send it to each other, and like, and it's instant. So Ian was he sent me a video the other day. Our kids were they were messaging each other back and forward.
Yeah, it was so fun.
And Ian was he showed us like I guess sort of like because like I'm sure lots of people have seen in your studio on Instagram, right? But what they won't have seen is the full reveal. The full reveal. Ian gave us the full reveal the other day. I saw one wall full of basses, and I was like, whoa, that is a lot of basses. And then as he panned around, there was like another full wall full of basses. Like, it is.
Yeah.
I've got like,
dude.
I've got bass envy, dude. Like, I really have. Like, you've got all of the basses. You've got the Music Mangs and the P basses and the jazz basses and the 12 strings and the Kubickies. And I bet there's shit in there that you don't even know that you've got. You're gonna find a bass someday. You'll be like, whoa! Like, I didn't even know I had this.
Like hiding under the bed or something.
I've been looking for you everywhere.
Man, it's so funny. I was telling you that my wife Emily asked me a while back, like, how many basses do you have? And I said, how many do you think I have? And she said, I think you have 17. And I said, oh, that's very, and I was so relieved to hear her say that number, because it's way more than that. It's so much more than that. And I said, oh yeah, that's yes, I think you're very close. That's I mean, all she would have to do is pop her head in and count.
Yeah. But you said 30
what did I say?
You said 30.
Yeah, it's something like that.
I challenge you, dude. Like, I actually think that it's going to be more. I think it's more that visual, the visual you sent me of that video that just it's burned into my memory. I've never seen so many basses. It was you've got a bass shop. Like, get a sign outside the door. Dude, there'll be like dudes walking in your house. Emily will be like, what's going on? You'd be like, oh, yeah, I've set up shop.
Set up shop. Man, I mean, I think I told you this, but I had, when I started to do session work, I just got this really intense idea around, like, acquiring over my lifetime one good example of what I consider to be all the like classic thumbprint, iconic bass guitars, right? So, and when I started to do it, I was like, oh, I guess that means it's probably going to mean a P bass, a jazz bass, maybe a Thunderbird, and a Rickenbacker, and I was like, 4. And then as I went, I was like, oh, well, no, we've got to add a Hofner. Hang on, we've got to add a Stingray. Should probably add some kind of modern 5. Well, of course I'll need a fretless. Oh, well, then there was that period in the 90s of 12-string and 8-string basses. We should probably have one of each of those.
Have you got a semi-acoustic? Have you got like a semi?
Let's make it 31, dude. No, I need one of those.
You haven't got a semi? Have you not got like a Gretsch Country Gentleman or something like that?
Okay, I have a Guild Starfire.
That'll
from
do.
'66,
it's solid, isn't it? But yeah, but it's still got the look. Have you got an SG bass?
No. I mean, so I went down hard Fender road. So of like all of what I consider to be the like classic models, even like old Coronado, Bass 6, 70s jazz, 60s jazz, 50s P, 60s, you know, all that stuff. I did all that over time, just like kind of like one a year. I mean, I'm old, you know, I'm 43. So this started in my mid 20s. And, you know, I've just been amassing this ridiculous collection. But, when I started to look into Gibson, and it was it just felt too daunting. Like, I was like, to try to get one of all of the great Gibson models, they're so expensive. And they're just... You
literally mean like you were about to sort of like pop the cork, and it was going to be sort of like this unstoppable sort of like flurry of more basses.
Exactly. I just decided I have a Les Paul signature bass, which is that sort of gold. It looks like an Epiphone Jack Cassidy, and I love it. Yeah. And then I have Thunderbird, and I was like, that's it. But dude, I sometimes scope those EB2s and you know like the SGs, dude, and EBOs and the SGs, and I mean, what I love about when I see. I would love for you to speak to this a little bit, because I think that I actually have a problem. I mean, thank God it's what I do for a living. Because if it wasn't, that would be like absolutely ridiculous, right? But I have a collector gene in me. My dad is like a hardcore collector, you know, and so I have this in me, and I go back and forth on whether I think it's like it's cool, and you know, or like it's so lame.
Oh,
and
no,
what
dude,
I love
it's
about
super cool.
I don't think it's cool.
Dude, it's cool, man.
It's an affliction, you know? It's an affliction.
Like Joe Bonamassa, right, has just got this incredible collection of guitars and amps. And each of them, have you seen the video? And he like tells you about all of these. I think his dad ran a music store, and he's got like all of these sort of like weird ass amps, like, you know, like the first kind of like, I don't know, like the first twin ever off the factory line. And, you know, I'm just like, no, it's cool, man. It's cool.
It's cool. It's like, but part of me thinks that like, there's part of me that feels like, man, what actually is really cool is committing to an instrument and playing that instrument, or committing even to like a budget instrument. You said something yesterday when we were just chatting. You said, you're fine to get rid of all these basses and do all these giveaways and get rid of even some of your like personal, amazing, incredible, expensive bass guitars, because you don't want it to be about the instrument. You want it to be about your playing. And dude, that was like, I was like, whoa, like I took it like right to the heart. And I you didn't mean it that way. I mean, I know you weren't saying it was an indictment, but I just was like, like I went down, man. I was like, Allison's down.
Man overboard.
Yeah. I mean, because sometimes I think if I'm honest, I put too much stock in the like, oh, well, I have to have this bass for this vibe. When honestly, you could probably change your hand position, change the strings, change a setting, a tone control, and get very close and not have to be so precious about the exact model.
No,
you know?
No, I'm pushing back, dude. I think that you should absolutely just lean into it. I think that... Yeah, I do. Like, I think that we're just baked slightly different. So I saw that room of yours, right? I saw the room. And it was so beautiful. All of the basses are in sort of like these, you know, they're all in these like beautiful stands. And you've got the rug. And the rug is like, you've thought about that rug, and it's just, and it looks nice.
Yes,
and it's like, and
I did think about the rug.
Man, if you could see inside this room I'm sitting in now, it would tell a story that I probably don't want to, you know, I don't want to sort of like unleash on the world. But it's like, so over there, I'm just gonna context. So basically, what I was saying is like, your room. You could take anybody into that room and they're just gonna be like, oh, this guy cares about. He just sort of like cares about his surroundings, and there's like, there was a certain aesthetic. You know, I could imagine some joss sticks in there. Do you know what I mean? Smoking away, like a, you know, like you might not have it right now, but I guess at one point you might have had a lava lamp in the corner. Do you know what I mean? Right. In contrast, here's my wall.
Okay,
with the soundproof and just falling off it. Okay, here's like 2 crappy coffee cartons because I can't be asked even doing the coffee right. And then as I turn around, there is, check it out, ready? Well, there's loads of bases just chucked on the couch.
You got some bases over there.
There's 40 coffee cartons just shoved against the wall over there.
Dude, I remember when we had the coffee conversation early on in the days of the podcast, and you were talking about drinking, I mean, like loads of coffee.
It's obscene. Yes. Sort of 4 of these a day. Just sort of that's a week's worth. There's like literally 40 just coffee cartons, and they're all on the floor, and it's just shit everywhere. It's just, I've just got foam out. Like, look at this. It's just tat. I just live in sort of like tat. But so all
you got bigger fish to fry, man. You got bigger fish to fry.
All that to say is that when I saw that room, I was like, oh, just look at it. Look how nice it is, and it's just so considered, and there's all of these amazing bases. And Lisa, my wife, has tried so hard to get me to be like that. She's like, you've got this room, just like make it your own, put pictures up, just like a really nice place to be. And, honestly, I kind of like visualize this as sort of like, even though it's like out in the garden and it's nice, I'm looking out in the garden. Dude, I could be in sort of like a cellar right now, like an old industrial cellar.
And it wouldn't matter.
With steel, like old lead pipes.
Some leaks, sort of just like drips on the floor.
And like a shaking boiler in the corner that scares the kids, don't go down in the cellar because that boiler's alive.
Yes.
So, I'm jealous. I'm envious. I don't know what the word is, but I not that I don't want the stuff. I wish I was just like more like programmed like that.
Well, listen, when I see you fire up Trello, and so I may have my bases, my base ducks in a row, right? So my surroundings, my base ducks are in a row. They're all in a nice little, because it's something I feel like I really have solid control over. But then sometimes with projects and recordings and artists and all that, right? It's just a scramble. So listen, let's do a bit of a trade. I'll take a little more of you. You take a little more of me. And we'll see if we can meet in the middle. Because, dude, I mean, I think I love that, like, how organized you are in terms of your brain space, or that is the endeavor, right? So what I perceive is you're trying to be, you're managing this company. You're the CEO of this company. So you have to manage all of that. So your space is not a priority to you at the moment. It could be. You could decide, you could put it on your Trello board. You could say, yep, okay, next week we're gonna order a couple of stands. I'm gonna order a rug, and we're gonna clean up the. You could, but you've prioritized a different thing.
You're exactly right. Actually, like honestly, like hand on heart, if that was on the Trello board, it'd get done. But it needs to be on the Trello board to happen. If it's not on the Trello board, it's not happening. It's just, and the unfortunate thing is that, oh man, like it really is unfortunate that the Trello board, like everything is prioritized. So maybe it wouldn't get done. Maybe it'd just get like things that would just get prioritized in front of it. Yeah,
just keep getting shoved to the back of the line.
Yeah, like I've got an assistant recently, like B. Shout out to B if she's listening.
Shout out to B, man. She's keeping it. She's keeping it tight for you,
B
man.
B from Wales. She's awesome.
So cool.
Man, it's been great actually, because it's because she's just helped me do some of the shit that I just, because I'm over prioritizing SBL over everything else, just silly things just don't get done. Like I was like, first thing I said when she was like, so have you got, I was like, yeah, you need to get me to a dentist. Like, get me to a dentist, man. And then another one. I've got like a mole on my back. I was like, I need this mole removed.
Oh, B, I'm so sorry. She is sorting you out, man. She's sorting you out. That's cool.
Yeah, all of the personal stuff just never gets done. B, I need a bath.
She's gonna book the bath for you. Yes,
she'll book the bath.
Man, I mean, geez, like I find that so my wife, Emily, has tried to project manage some things for me. And I just find that I end up sort of sabotaging it, or I end up not doing it. I think, I need to work on my personal mental organization, time, prioritizing time, getting a priority thing together. I think I need to check out Trello, which is like, Emily told me about it. And I was like, nah. And then you did. I'm like, oh, and she hated that so much. I'm like, oh, Scott told me about Trello. She's like, I told you about Trello.
Yeah. I will say though that it's hard though. Like it is for me. So for instance, I've been really digging into it using Trello, and I've got like Google Calendar up and running, sort of like, and I've really been, since B came on board, I had to do that because I had to give her at least a chance of understanding what the heck I've got going,
yes, absolutely,
in my life.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. And what B said is, she said, you need to get everything in Trello, prioritize it. So I've been doing that. And then she said, but then you need to transfer that over to your Google Calendar and make sure that so in general, like 9 to 5, which is sort of like, I guess, sort of like the time I generally work. Well, kind of like I do a couple of hours on an evening, but let's not talk about that. So like 9 to 5 is sort of like mapped out, every single sort of like half an hour has got like stuff allocated to it. So, but I will say it's hard. It's still hard, and I think
hard to stick to it, right?
It's hard to stick to it. It's almost like it's kind of going to the gym. It's like the productivity gym. It's like it ain't going to do it for you. You're going to have to do the work, and and if you don't start something on time, the cascading
then it just
effect
wrecks the whole day. It's
a mess, man. Yeah, and so I had that, and like I was watching a podcast recently. This guy that I follow called Noah Kagan, who's the CEO of AppSumo, which is a great company, and he's a really fantastic guy, super switched on. And he did a video on how he organizes his week, and I just watched it and I was like, that is legit. It was just like, I spend 2 hours at the beginning of every week. I spend 2 hours organizing my calendar for the week. Like that, and that is the actual time it takes. It's really quite, I guess, misleading, or it at least was for me, of like how much time it takes to just get your calendar together. Like 2 hours. So I did that this week. It took me 2 hours. I sat down and it was like every single thing. And I think that the way that he does it, which I think is really interesting and something that I'm definitely trying to take with me as well, is that he's got his main priorities for the quarter, for the month, for the quarter, for the year. He's got these main priorities.
Sure, goals.
Not only, like company goals, but also personal goals and stuff like that.
Sure.
And what he's doing is every single week when he puts his calendar together, he's making sure that the stuff on his calendar aligns with the goals that he has. Because it's actually really easy for those to be out of whack. You fill your week, and then you look at your sort of like main priorities for the quarter or for the year or whatever, and you're like, all of this stuff that I'm doing this week has nothing to do with my major goals this year.
Big
problem. So
big problem. Yeah,
big problem. And I'm just going to open my Trello board as well.
Oh, open it up
right here. Yeah, and like and the big stuff on it is the stuff that it's really easy to, I guess, gravitate away from, because it's not easy. That like should I say the hard stuff on it is not the easy stuff to do. So like one of these things is like work on educational design and framework of the sequential learning systems inside Scott Space Lessons. That is not easy. Like this is a project that Phil, shout out to Phil, he's been working on, Eric's been working on also from the team. It's not an easy kind of like, hey, I'm going to do this, I can like tick it off. It's this big brute of a project that we're trying to do, and it's those things that I really need to prioritize. Make a list of potential VCs to get introductions to. Again, like plan out launch models of Ever Music. These are sort of like that's a day. That's just a day just to kick off that project. It's brutal. So that all that to just, I think I'm just sort of like blah. I'm just sharing, just sort of like share my pain at the minute of going through this. But it's not pain. It's all good. But it is. I find it. I guess it's hard work. That's the key thing. It's like just hard work. It's just not as in like it's physically hard, but it's like it's it's not, hey, call so and so.
Exactly.
This thing off. You're like, write
it's
email
less like,
to.
It's less task oriented and more sort of this, you could always have some of those things on the list, right? Because maybe some of those projects are never done. Yeah, right? Like if you had if you had make original music on there, like, when is that ever done? When can you be like, yes, okay, that's over forever? Or,
exactly.
Oh man. Yeah.
Exactly. So what I've been doing actually on these bigger sort of like, I guess sort of like hairy goals that we've got on here, I've then been breaking them down into tasks, into deliverables. Like, what do we need to do first? What do we need to do second? Who's going to own that? Like, this stuff that's actually very counterintuitive to me to work like that, and I'm kind of like learning as I go, because I just need to do that to be able to push the company forward. But I have got so much admiration for badasses out there, like so much. I was listening I was listening to this interview, man, of the chief marketing officer of Skillshare.
Yeah,
and I was just listening to this podcast, and I was just like, she's such a badass. So she's such a badass. I've just got so much admiration and just like, the otherworldly, these sort of like high functioning kind of like, just like badass business dudes and dudettes that like executives on these sort of like larger teams. So interesting.
It's crazy. And when I listen to people like that, sometimes I just get discouraged because I'm like, well, I will never I will never measure up. But I think it's baby steps, right? Like for me, I need to, so I have a Trello set up. I need to just dig in, and I would like to try to do my calendar for a week and see what happens. Like, I haven't done that yet because I'm scared. I'm scared to try it. I think what I'm scared of, though, actually, is that thing of like procrastinating one thing, the dominoes fall, and then I feel like my week is a failure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I'm nervous that would happen. Like, I would do the work, and then I would miss something, and then I'd be like, oh, I can't do this. Who was I kidding? And the self-loathing would the black clouds would form, and it's like, it's just easier to dust my bases.
Hey, maybe this episode should be about organizing your calendar as a musician.
Yeah.
Could we do that?
Oh boy. Dude.
I know we didn't plan on doing that, but maybe we should do that. Maybe we should
break
this conversation open a little bit. Yeah.
And when you said that, I had this ice water guts pang of remembering a horrible experience that maybe. Oh, really? Would you mind if I
absolutely.
Start with that?
Go for it. Yeah, go.
So I'm more organized now than I used to be, and there was a time in my life post-college, I was living in an apartment by myself, and there was a time that I just stopped checking my email. I don't even know why. I just was like, I don't need to do that. And I just checked out. But meanwhile, my life was still going. There were gigs, there were commitments, there was work stuff, there was all kinds of things. And I was playing in this rock band at the time, and I will never forget, there was a thing where we had a show, and I didn't have a calendar. I wasn't writing anything down. So whenever someone would say, hey, you want to do this thing on Friday? I would just go, yeah, cool. That's easy. It's fun to say yes, right? It's like, yeah, sure. Great. And then I'll never forget, like, I was at something with a group of friends, and my dear friend Dave, who was in this rock band with me, he's been my childhood friend forever, called and was like, where are you? And I was like, what do you mean? I'm, eating food with the homies at the place. And he was like, what? Sound check is happening. And I'm like, sound check for what? And this is an original band of 3 members. It's not like it would be terrible if it were any gig, but it's like, if one out of the 3 guys isn't there, then the show's not going to happen. And I was like, oh, you're kidding me. He's like, no, can you, and so, I'm racing home, and I'm grabbing my crap, and I'm flying in, and I'm making it their problem, and I'm all out of sorts. And absolutely horrible. And I remember after that experience, like, things like that would happen. Or I did lessons out of my house, and sometimes people would show up. I mean, this is when I'm in my mid-20s, early to mid-20s. I would do lessons at my house, and sometimes people would show up and I just wouldn't be there. And they'd be like, hey man, ringing your doorbell. They would text me, ringing your doorbell, and I would be like in a different town, like at a gig, or, sorry, forgot. Terrible.
When did you, what made you start to make the shift?
Yeah. So all that to say, this is still a part of my personality that I struggle with, because I'm sometimes sort of spontaneous and whim based. Yeah, let's do that. Oh, that sounds like fun. And then maybe I forget about the thing that I really need to do. I mean, this is actually a big struggle in my marriage. But in terms of calendar, gig wise, my friend Dave Young, shout out to Dave, who is just the greatest, essentially sort of had like a mini intervention. He was like, "Hey man, can I come over?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, great. Put a pot of coffee on." I was like, "Oh, okay." And he came over and he had a calendar and he said, "I know this is going to feel passive aggressive or condescending, but I'm giving this to you and I need you to start using it, because right now you are fucking up. And it impacts on more than just you." And of course I know he's right, and I'm going, "Oh, dude, I'm so sorry. You're right." And he's like, you have to write this stuff down.
This is super interesting.
Yeah. He was like, you cannot remember these things. You think you can, but you cannot. And if it were just you, fine, do whatever you want to do. But it's also me, and it's this business. I mean, it's a band, sort of like a small business, a family. He's like, you can't just not be at a show. Like it can't happen. So this is the first step, And he was really nice about it, but he was also firm. He was like, you have to change this, and it was kind of like it was an awakening for me.
Was it just going from being sort of like a kid? When you just you've really got no responsibility, you're sort of like flying by the seat of your pants, and then suddenly, oh crap, I actually have things that I need to do, and you've got things. Well, obviously not in your diary or your calendar at the time; it was all floating around your head. But right? I guess was it that transition of going to not doing anything to actually having responsibilities and having to turn up? And so was it that? And also, how long did that period last for?
Too long. I mean, I would love to lie right now and say, "Oh yes, and then I sorted it out, and then everything was fine, and I am so organized, and everything gets done promptly." And I have struggled with it off and on. I have spells, and I think that now my professional calendar is far better than it's ever been. But where it manifests, where I see it manifest still, is even in just simple day-to-day things. Like my family will say, "Hey, make sure to switch the laundry." My wife will be like, "On your way out, switch the laundry," and I just won't remember.
Dude,
and so
it kills Lisa. It kills her.
Oh, right.
She questions me. She's like, "Do you actually listen to me?" I'm like, "Yes." And then she's like, "Well, why don't you just do the simplest things that I ask you to do?" And I'm like,
"Oh, Lisa,
I have nothing. I have nothing to come back with. I don't know. I think that it's because I'm preoccupied. I think that's. Yes. I think that I'm thinking about stuff, and she will say it, and I will respond. I'll be like, "Okay," but it won't. It's like this.
But it won't register.
It's like when somebody, when somebody taps the thing on your knee and your foot kicks up in the air, like automatically.
Yes.
It's like that. Yeah. Do this, Scott, and I'm like, "Okay," but I actually didn't even hear what she
an involuntary
asked me to do.
Reaction. Yeah,
it is exactly that. Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm going to do something completely different that's probably going to annoy the heck out of us. So I have that for sure.
Yeah. I mean, and I definitely put forward a vision or a projection of what I want to be. Like on social media, people are like, "Oh man, it seems like you're doing all the things and you're so organized and this and that." And really, it's what I want to be, but it is a struggle. And so it would be great. I mean, I've definitely done some things and made some mental adjustments, and just some like very practical adjustments, like, getting a calendar that I like to use, and, that have really helped me in this regard, at least professionally. I mean, relationally and family, I can still use all the help I can get. But I really like that thought that it is about I'm preoccupied. When someone says something about a task that I don't really maybe think is important, like maybe unloading the dishwasher in that moment, I say, yeah. And I think my mind is like, oh yeah, well, I'll make sure that happens before bed or something. And then it doesn't. And then, you know, my wife is upset. So that's still a struggle. I mean, that's like a real struggle. It sounds like for anybody out there who isn't in like a committed relationship and doesn't have these problems, this probably sounds sort of silly, but it is like a big, it's a big issue. Yeah. In marriages, because what you said, it gets at the undercurrent of, are you listening to me? It's like Emily says that to me too, right? Like Lisa, with you, are you listening? Did you hear a word that I said?
Yeah.
And it's not that we don't want to listen, right? It's that there's maybe another thought process going on in our head that is taking over. Right? I mean,
I love it when you say that. You were air holding a bass there. You were like, it's taking over. You were like literally air holding a bass. So
I'm literally playing my modes right now in the air. Yes.
Yes, I will put the laundry on Emily.
Oh, dude, that's so funny. just thinking about tapping figures. Yeah, man. I mean, you know, it's the blessing and the curse of being passionate about something, right? Because it can take over your mental state, your faculties.
So in terms of like when you're doing like gigs now, where do you what tool do you keep them in? Do you use a calendar, like an online calendar?
What I need in my life is something that works well together. So I am fully entrenched, for better or for worse, in the Apple ecosystem. So like when I came on board SBL and you guys all use Google, I'm like, oh no, like what is this? So for me, iCal is what I use. And so, you know, I even use reminders. I mean, man, the reminders app on my phone is so critical. I saw somebody doing it. I mean, this is such a simple thing, but if you're a forgetful, or if you're prioritizing things out of whack and you really need to remember that thing, I literally pick up my phone and push the side button and say, remind me in an hour to unload the dishwasher. And then it will. Like, it's incredible, you know? So that's...
I haven't done that. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Dude, it's the reminders app, and you can just use Siri to activate it. And that's actually been really powerful. But in terms of gig stuff, I always put it in my iCal, and I always try to include drive times too, so that I'm not saying, okay, the gig's at 6. Well, if the sound check's at 6, I'm going to put it in my calendar at 5, which will allow the 30-minute drive, 30-minute buffer, right? Yeah. Like, those are things that I've just learned that are just very sort of simple and kind of silly sounding practical things, but they're really important for me, so that I'm not digging through my email to try to find I'm scrolling, my inbox is not at 0, my inbox is at 300, so I'm scrolling through the freaking emails, dude, to find the thing. So I try to put all of the info, right, for the gig, the times and everything, any notes that I need to know in my actual calendar. So if I go to the calendar, the info is there about when it starts, the times, so that I, am not a dismal failure in my professional life.
No, I'm using the same. I use Google Calendar, and it wasn't me that actually implemented all of that stuff in the in SBL. It was I think actually started when Phil started. Phil was like, pulled us all together. He was like, come here, guys. Come with me. He showed us the way. Yeah, he showed us the way.
Oh,
so I'm
definitely
like, I'm using Google Calendar for like everything. And what I would recommend as well, just for everybody, is like, obviously, you have to start using an online calendar, because then you can, as like Ian was saying, you can set reminders. I've got like Google Calendar gives me reminders. But also, like, I'd really recommend as well, just like, it doesn't need to be 2 hours like me, but just maybe do it on a Monday, maybe just sort of like commit to it. Hey, every Monday, I'm going to sit down for however long it takes, and just get your diary sorted for that week. Especially if you've got projects that you really want to do, because I think for the most part, we've all got like cool projects that we want to do. And I think if it's rattling around in your head, I think that, well, first of all, you've got to get it down somewhere, either on a piece of paper or on, like for project management, I personally use Trello, which I really recommend, but get it down, like get a list of projects that you want to work on and then get them in your calendar, like commit to it, keep yourself accountable to it. And because that way you're just going to get the stuff done. You're just going to get the stuff done. And what I like to do as well with mine is like, I like to do like be a little geeky. Like I've got color codes and stuff like that. I bet Emily's all over the color codes. I bet she's like color codes.
Big time. Yes, she is.
Yeah. And if anybody's wondering what I mean by color code and stuff, like, so if I look at, let me just open my calendar, right? So all of the kind of like just work projects I've got on are all color coded in blue. All of the meetings that I've got are color coded in purple. All of the filming that I'm doing, so this right now is green, and then I've got like a base hang, which is a live stream on Thursday, and I've got another live stream on Thursday. Then I've got like the winner announcement for the giveaway, and that's coming on. All of that's green, so I can look and I can clearly see. Well, it helps me do a few things. It helps me look and think to myself, easily see where the meetings are, easily see where I've got work time and stuff like that. But also I can easily see if I'm like over prioritizing in one area. I can be like, whoa, I've got like 20 hours of meetings this week. And I'll be like, that's BS. That's
too much. Right.
I need to do some work. I need to get some work done. So it like helps me on that. So for anybody listening, if you chose to go with sort of like a specific color coding system, when you look at your calendar, you'd be like, oh, wicked, I'm actually working on a lot of personal projects. Or you'd be like, oh, I'm not working on any personal projects, big problem.
Yes.
And then sort of like, so it gives you sort of like, it kind of fences you in a way. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of like, it's like a forcing function to, hey, I've been thinking about doing this thing for like the last 18 months or even longer. Now let's get it down in Trello or whatever, like a project management tool or whatever, and then let's get it on the calendar and then work towards that. And for me, it's like choosing a day that you are actually going to organize your calendar every single week. Choosing sort of like, if you want to go with the color coding system, that's cool. If you've got like complex stuff going on and you want to be able to see it. But what I also do as well, what I've started to do over the last, I guess, sort of like a couple of months, is like try and get the like for me, and I'm not sure that this is directly translatable to others, but I guess it will be. For me, like meetings are the things that stop me being creative. Yeah. Like it's like I find it quite hard when if I've got like 3 meetings in a day and I've got 8 hours to fill, right? 8 hours, 9 till 5, I've got 8 hours and I've got 3 1-hour meetings. Well, you might think that, well, it means you've got 4 hours. Right. Well, it doesn't actually work like that. And I've heard sort of like programmers talk about the same thing. Do you know, like people that do like coding, for a living? Yeah. They say that actually really interrupts their kind of their flow as like whatever they're working on. So for me, I really try not to have meetings spread during the week. I try and bulk them all together on 2 days currently.
So you're in meeting zone. You're in the headspace for that then in that time period. Right?
And I don't feel bad about it. Like Mondays, I've got a lot of freaking meetings. Like I've got, like 4 hours of meetings. And then on Wednesdays, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got 5.5 hours of meetings tomorrow. It's a lot. But what that also means is that like Tuesday's free, Thursday's free, Friday's free. Like I actually this week I've got sort of like filming and a bunch of stuff, and by free I'm not kind of sort of like kicking back. It means that I'm more focused on either creating content or strategizing for the business, but I'm definitely not just sort of like in meetings all the time. So that's how I'm going about it. And I think that honestly it's actually, I said this earlier, it's hard. It's definitely hard, especially if you're not, I guess, baked that way, which I'm definitely not. But I do think it's really worth it. Like I'm finding it really worth it.
I want to ask you, because did you ever have a moment, an awful, embarrassing, I think about that time that my friend came and had that intervention with me, and I pull the covers up over my head and I go, because I just am like, the fact that it was so, it was so self-important and self-centered, and that time in my life where I was just like, I don't need to write anything down. And then it was just screwing up other people's lives. And to some degree, that's still a struggle for me. I think I've gotten better. But for you, someone I perceive to be very organized, very motivated by what the goals that you want to achieve. I know motivation is a little bit of a sticky word, right? But like you are productive. You're a high output individual. And I wonder, I mean, I know that a lot of that has to do with how you prioritize your organization, but when was there a turning point for you? Was there something that happened that was a terrible scenario where you thought, oh my God, I've got to get this together? Or did it slowly happen over time? Do you kind of have a thought about that?
I did have a disaster once where I didn't turn up for a gig, similar to you. Like, luckily, there was a keys player on it, and it wasn't sort of like a 3-piece original thing. That's so bad. Dude, so honestly, I would have died, but I still died. I was still like, oh, this is really bad. But I did have a situation where I didn't turn up for a gig. And I guess just to sort of like throw it out there, and this is no excuse, but it was just, I had sort of like a crappy little diary sort of like thing that I used to sort of like throw in my gig bag. And it was, you know, I'm not even sure I had a mobile phone at this point. It was just like old school.
Right.
And I got the call. I was like, well, where are you? And I was like, I'm watching TV on my bed. Where are you? That's exactly what I said. Dude, I'm watching TV on my bed. And I think I might have even told them what was on. How you see, like, oh, this film's on. And he was like, dude, we've got a gig. And I was like, oh. And I looked at my watch, and I was like, oh, this is not going to happen. This is not, it's like impossible. It's like an hour drive away.
Yes.
And luckily, you know, they were cool. I didn't get my ass kicked or anything like that. Keys player was there, so he could just fill out, you know, to play lower down on the keyboard for the gig. So it was fine. But was it a wake-up call? Honestly, I don't think it was. I wish it was. I wish I could say that I learned a lot from it, but I don't think. I just, like, myself back then, I was just like by the seat. I was just kind of sort of like winging it, man.
Freewheeling.
I was freewheeling.
Same here.
And I was just chilled, and like I've changed a lot. I've just changed a lot over the last. I guess maybe like. I would say 10 years, because that's SBL, but I think it actually happened before that, really. I think that it all started to happen when it was focal dystonia, maybe. Like that was, I got this thing called, I've got my glove on now, I got this thing called focal dystonia, which is a neurological movement disorder, which kind of just sort of like changed my entire life. It was like I was on this trajectory of like, oh, I'm a professional musician, doing well, great gigs, great vibe, don't really do anything in the daytime, just kick back, do gigs every night. I was doing tours, doing theatre stuff. I mean, like I was living that kind of life, you know? And then, you know, all this stuff happened with my hands, and the neurologist was like, oh, do you do anything else? And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, oh, you won't be able to play. Your career as a professional musician is over.
Oh,
so you need to find something else you can do. And I can remember just like, that was just sort of like my mind was blown. Because at no point did I think he was going to say that. I was just like,
right.
I started playing guitar when I was 13. I was a disaster at school. Music is all I've ever done my entire life.
It's everything,
and I was like,
right.
it's everything, right? And I was like, really, like, even though I was kicking back, I was still ambitious, and I was like wanting to do great stuff, and I was like maybe like coming to my late 20s, 28, 29 or whatever, and then that happened. I was just like mind blown, and I think like I definitely wasn't okay. So it definitely wasn't like now I've got to get my shit together. It wasn't that kind of thing. It was like, that was the start of me discovering, like, I guess I discovered, like, somebody was like, hey, I was taking time off, and they said, hey, go check out YouTube. You can watch like old concerts on there. So I went and checked out YouTube, and I was like, oh, maybe I can teach a bit on YouTube, and I'll be able to get some Skype lessons, because I can play for about 20 or 30 minutes at a time before my hands start like cramping up. and maybe that'll help me pay the rent, because I didn't have any money. So I went and bought a computer and started putting lessons on YouTube. And then I realized, well, I didn't just realize, it wasn't like, there was no sort of like, moment. It was like, I figured out that, maybe this internet thing could be a thing. Maybe I could do this. And it was, I guess, and it definitely wasn't again, sort of like this moment. It was the slow realization that, you've got the opportunity to do something really fucking cool that nobody has done before. It was that slow realization of that. And then that coupled with, so I just feel incredibly lucky. It's like I was given this golden ticket that I didn't, like, at my most vulnerable in my life, somebody handed me this golden ticket and said, hey, you've actually got a chance to go do something really fucking cool that nobody has done yet. And it was the slow realization of that, coupled with, I am actually sort of like a real hard worker when it comes down to it. I will sort of like work myself to the bone. And I was like, whoa, I've got this golden ticket that I've just been handed, and it's just this tiny seed, but maybe it is a thing, and it's that. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to work my tail off to make this, into something. And it was, so it was that really. And then it was a slow process, and going through that process and having to learn and research all of the things I had to research and find out about all these amazing individuals that are out there in the space doing all of these incredible business things. I actually learned about sort of what it's like to be like high output, what that really means, like high output, like making stuff happen. And I actually got this whole kind of like, it was an awakening really. It was like, this is actually really cool. So I've got this golden ticket. I don't want to call it a golden ticket because but I got this, it felt like a golden ticket, like I've got this golden ticket.
That's how you perceived it. You
can go and do this thing that's sort of like really unique and grow this thing. And then at the same time, I'm like, and I'm learning about it. And then I learn about and really find a love for out of the box thinking, how to really speed up processes, and just kind of sort of like fell in love with that. I fell in love with that. So it's been a real slow burn. So when I find stuff like this calendar thing that we've been talking about and the realization that, I might be like a third more productive each week if I do this thing, that's incredibly exciting to me. I'm like, holy crap, that is incredibly exciting.
Dude, I'm just sitting here and you're talking about that journey with focal dystonia and then with the internet, and you keep using words like grateful and golden ticket and excited and hardworking and high output, and I just kept getting like waves of goosebumps. The thing that is remarkable to me, first of all, I forget. I know you. I mean, me. We talk. I know you, and I forget. I genuinely forget about the dystonia thing. Like the glove, I see it as part of you. Like I don't notice it. Sort of like my wife has tattoos all over both arms, right? And I don't think like, she has tattoos on her arms. It's just how her arms look. Right? And for me, like when I see you with a glove, I don't think, that's right. Scott, is suffering, is continuing to suffer with this really incredibly debilitating neurological disease. And I have, or condition, maybe disease is the wrong word, but it's neurological, right? It's linked to your brain. Is it a disease?
Okay. I think it is, but and it can get worse and all of that crap. And it's a thing.
I just... I need to remember that, and I think it's even just gonna, like, I'll be like, whoa, he's doing all this with focal dystonia. Like, it's so crazy, dude. Because when I see you play, I don't think about it. But that's right. You talk about it, and I go, oh my God. And we need to do an episode of the pod where we talk about it, or where you talk about it. Maybe I can ask you some questions. And give it really a full due, because I think it's remarkable that you decided, that even with this condition and this thing that was probably like, after the doctor said, well, now think of something else to do because music is over. You decided, you decided, well, that's not true. It's not going to be true for you. You figured out a way to maybe circumvent the brain sending the message to your hand by the glove, right? Yeah. And then you decided. Then you found internet. You thought, oh, maybe I could teach. Maybe I could use this as a tool to build something. And I think you've told me this before. Is this right? If you wouldn't have been diagnosed and you would have just continued on normally, like if focal dystonia weren't a part of your life, you'd probably continue just doing gigs, being on the cruise ship, right? Doing some stuff, doing some local stuff, maybe some kind of. But SBL wouldn't have happened. The internet wouldn't have necessarily happened, right?
Internet wouldn't have happened, man. My life is considerably better from having sort of like to I guess to sort of like deal with focal dystonia. And if I could choose, obviously I would choose every single time. You know, if it went back in time, somebody said, "Oh, you can choose to be, you know, have focal dystonia and, you know, and have to suffer with the whole sort of like the thing, or like not and you know and follow the path that you're on." I would choose this path every single time.
It's incredible.
Every single time. I think Michael J. Fox, not to say that it's anything like Michael J. Fox, but I think that he said that he learned so much through going through the experience of getting Parkinson's disease.
Parkinson's, yes.
That he would do it again given the choice, which blew my mind here.
Yeah.
Like that's because that's like another level.
It is. And so much of this is just about mental state. It's about mental health. And it's about how you choose to view your trajectory in life. You could be like, oh, this ruined everything. You know, if you were less ambitious, right? You could just, this could be that. You could use focal dystonia as the talking point for it ruining all of your opportunities, right? Yeah, for sure. You could. You could say, oh, it did this, then I wasn't able to do this. And you could use it as an excuse, and maybe it wouldn't even be an excuse. It would be an actual real reason. You would decide that it was the reason that X, Y, and Z didn't happen for you. But instead, dude, you pivoted, right? You did. You went, okay, I was going this way, and now click, I'm going to go this way, and my life is going to be better for it. And it's pretty inspirational, Scott Devine. I got to tell you, man, it's pretty damn inspirational. That's like the ultimate, life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. I mean, you really made the best of what could have been, and what I'm sure was at times, and still maybe is, a very miserable situation. It was a very miserable situation. Yes, dude. Oh, dude. Yes.
It was so bad. It was, let me just tell you how bad it was. It wasn't. No, it was. It was really bad. What was even worse is that on the day that I had this sort of like this crushing blow that the neurologist was like, "Oh, yeah, you need to find another career." Like that day, my wife or girlfriend at the time was on holiday with her parents. I could say parents, but it was her parents broke up when she was younger, so she was on holiday with her mother. So she wasn't in Leeds, and my parents were away as well on holiday somewhere. Oh, so there was like nobody. There was just like me and George, me and George the dog. And I can remember just thinking, oh, I really wish somebody was around today. Oh, but but it was, It was a shit time, actually. It was awful to go around that. But honestly, and I think that my brother, not to sort of I guess not to play it down. I don't want to play it down because it was really hard, right? But it's perspective. I think that, yes. It's definitely perspective. Like a few years later, my brother broke his neck, and I was like, oh, you're like. All of my problems were like, I was like, essentially, it was the difference between sort of like stubbing your toe and having your leg amputated. Do you know what I mean? It was like stubbing your toe in a shark attack. It was like the difference between that. Like my brother was like 24 and freaking broke his neck and was paralyzed. Jeez. And he was like an athlete at the time, living in Russia, doing all of this sort of like, he was like in the Beijing Olympics and stuff like that. And this happened. And that was like, whoa. whoa. So that really put everything into perspective for me. I was
I'm sure it did.
Yeah.
But I mean,
I'll
also,
tell you what,
I just
as
have
well,
to,
man.
yeah.
Just sorry to jump in, but going through that, seeing my brother going through that experience added, I guess, to the aggressiveness, maybe, for lack of a better term, of like my want to milk. Maybe that's the wrong, but like just get all of the juice from the squeeze when it comes to SBL and grow this into sort of like something that can be really, really amazing. Like, because I saw how. Like, I just saw like a different side to life. I was like, that's, brutal.
And I mean, I was just going to say that even still though, dude, you could have had a different, it's about headspace. You decided to look at your brother's situation as perspective. I mean, you could have said, oh, well, that's awful for him. And I've had something awful happen to me as well. He had his dreams crushed by this, and so have I. And then that's it. Right. But instead you went, wow, you looked at it as like you were in a sense thankful that what happened to you didn't seem quite as intense as it could have been. Right. You saw like a silver lining. And that's, I mean, that just speaks to your character and what you've chosen, how you've chosen to frame these experiences.
I've never spoken to my wife or my parents about focal dystonia since the day that my brother broke his neck. Ever.
Are you serious?
Ever. I've never mentioned it. Like, maybe they'll bring it up, maybe, or something like that, but I've never, ever mentioned it. Because it just it was just sort of like, it was like, sort of like when the camera zooms out and like in a film and you're like, whoa! It was like, and especially like going through, because he was in like hospital for freaking like 7 months or something like that, and seeing the families come in and sort of like they've had like, it was like, and I met some really, really amazing individuals through that experience as well. Like guy, my brother was in intensive care for a long time. So how long was he in intensive care? Like months. I think he was in the IC unit for something like 2 months. It was something, and he was in an isolation booth as well.
Oh,
dude.
My God.
Oh yeah, because not only did he break his neck, he also sort of like caught some like really odd like virus. This was before COVID, obviously. This happened 10 years ago.
Wow. Yeah.
But he caught this really odd virus in the Russian hospital that he was in. So when they brought him over, they did tests on him. They're like, oh, he can't be in the normal ICU. He has to go in this like basically like this metal box, kind of like
solitary.
For months. He was in there for months on his own. He couldn't speak. He literally couldn't speak. He couldn't speak. It was like brutal. And we met this nurse that worked in the ICU unit called Andy. And dude, man, this guy was he gave me just like a completely new perspective. I was just like, every day, this guy is just seeing people on the edge, like literally on the edge of death.
Right.
But like families like on the edge of breakdown because they're seeing their loved ones go through kind of like utter hell. And I remember talking to Andy and just be like, dude, like this is insanity. Like this is your everyday. Like, and honestly, he just took it in his stride. And he was like made for it. He was like in the worst situations, like families and individuals, at the worst situations in their life, he would bring a smile to people's faces. And that was just, he was so good, man. It was so good.
That's cool.
He saved my brother's experience in there. Being there, of like having sort of like somebody to connect with. And it was just, So
when you say that you never spoke about dystonia again after the first day, why is that? Is it because of what you saw, how bad your brother's experience was, that you felt yours wouldn't measure up? Is that why?
It wasn't that I didn't think it would measure up. I just thought it just put it into perspective. It was almost like, I stubbed my toe and the dude next to me had just been mauled by a great white.
Right.
It was just like, And it's honestly, it's something, it wasn't a conscious thing. I was never like, oh, I'm never going to mention it again, you know, and I'm going to feel good about never mentioning it again. It wasn't that. Yeah. It was like, oh, I'm never going to mention it again. Like, you know, they've brought it up and stuff like that, but very rarely. I think they maybe because it put it in perspective for them. They were like, yeah, whatever, dude. Whatever, dude. You got to wear the glove.
well, I mean, you know, I want to say this. I want to just say this carefully, and because I wasn't around in that point for your life and for your brother's experience. And it sounds hellish, but I just want to say to you that just because someone else in your family went through something intense doesn't invalidate the experience of your intensity. I mean, I know that you probably know that, but I think that it's okay to talk about it. I mean, you know, maybe you don't want to bring it up to Lisa. Maybe you don't want to bring it up to your family. But I just want to say that out loud, dude, that what you have gone through is not a small thing. Yes, maybe it was put into perspective, but you also chose to make the lemonade out of the lemons, right? And you had that ability because you didn't go through the same thing that your brother did. But I just want to say, it's okay for you to mention it. It's okay. It doesn't mean that you're invalidating your brother's experience. You know?
Yeah, for sure. No, I agree with that. And I think that do you know what I think it is? I never think about it. I think that's maybe what it is. Like it's something I suffer with from every day. I don't like really. I guess sort of like one of the core reasons why I've not released, like, because there's so many people like release an album, do something. Like a lot of it comes down to actually my ability to record a few days in a row in the studio is actually it's tough. Do you know what I mean? Like it's actually hard. So all of that shit, right? So so it's just that I don't necessarily think about it all the time. You know what, though? I think there's a balance. Like, I think that I'll tell you when I got it wrong. I think I got it wrong with my brother, actually. So when my brother, because I tried to, I'm the older brother, obviously, like 10 years. And I got it wrong when he broke his neck. I was, and maybe this says something about like why I did the thing with focal dystonia, and maybe it's sort of like I'm not a very. Lisa says this actually. Is it introspective when you think about sort of like who you are and all of that shit? Is that introspective?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So I'm not very. I don't really think about like. Lisa's like super. She thinks about her feelings and he's great. And I wish I was, but I'm just sort of like a little bit kind of. I guess like I'm too busy freaking charging forward than thinking about which is not a good thing. I think that it's actually introspection is really great if I'm getting the language or the context right.
Yeah, for sure.
I tried to I was with my brother, and I think like we've never even spoken about it, and I think that he was. It probably might have helped him at the time, but I think I definitely could have dialed it back a little. Is that when he broke his neck, he was like, so, and just for context, he was in he was like doing martial arts at the highest level out in Russia. He moved there when he was 16 off his own back. I'm just saying this to get context. Yeah, off his own back, dude. He moved when he was like 16 to freaking Moscow to train with the Russian martial arts team. And he sort of like ended up competing at the highest level. Obviously went to like the Beijing Olympics and stuff like that. He was a freaking badass. And so he was really into sport, and he'd done it his entire life. And then obviously ended up breaking his neck, and he was in the ICU, intensive care, and for months. And he had like a C5-6 break, which means he was like paralyzed from the chest down. So from just under his chest down. So he's got no grip in his hands. He's got sort of like, not full function of his arms. Like it was bad. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't sort of like as bad as like a C, like further up, like when you're using your chin to move around, but it wasn't great. But as soon as I sort of like had, I guess, sort of like clarification from a doctor that he was going to be able to use his arms in any way, shape or form, I was like it sounds freaking so insensitive to say this, but I was in that isolation booth, and he couldn't speak with magazines on wheelchair rugby. And I was like, dude, you are going to play wheelchair rugby. You can freaking forget about it if you think that this is it. Like this is what you're going to do now. And I was like, full force, man. And I was like, and I definitely could have been maybe more tactful and easy on him. But all that to say, and he actually went and did it, you know. Like, this is the thing. This is what he freaking did it, man. He did it. And I can remember when he got in his wheelchair for his first time and he couldn't push himself 6 feet. He couldn't push himself 6 feet, right? And he just went for it, and he actually he ended up playing for the county. I mean, stuff like, so he was playing wheelchair rugby for the county within a year of, I think it was within a year of breaking his neck. So he got out of hospital, and he was like, the first thing he was like, right, get me a wheelchair rugby chair. This is it. I'm gonna go do this thing.
So do you feel though that, like, when you look back on that time where, you know, you were saying, I know this is bad, but here's, you know, I'm going to help you. I'm your big brother. I'm going to, you know, like, did you think it was too, like, maybe you could have empathized better and said, oh my God, what a terrible thing, and just let that be sitting there for a while? Or do you feel bad that you tried to just bright side it right away? Or what's the feeling there?
Yeah, like, I think I just could have been more tactful, maybe less aggressive. Like, I was just sort of like, this is it, man. This is it. You're going to be the best in the world at this thing.
I get that. Like, coming from really good intention, though. I mean, coming from of course, yes. And I'm the same, dude. I'm the same. I'm like, oh, don't worry, because we'll do this.
Yeah.
You know, and my wife sometimes will be like, you need to let people feel their feelings. Yeah. You know, you need to let people, but I'm very similar. Have you ever mentioned that time when you were by his side in the ICU with the magazines to him ever?
Never. Yeah, I should probably do that.
I mean, well, I mean, I don't know.
We're
I don't
not
know.
But do you know, our family are not talkers. It's actually quite interesting that, like, I am quite like an open book in terms of sort of like emotionally, I think, or I feel like I am. I sort of like, we've had some great conversations where I kind of like, there's no closed doors. I'm kind of sort of like just seeing how I, you know, saying how I feel it and all of that. But in my family, we're not like that at all. Like, it's actually not like that at all. Like, it's actually,
it would feel awkward potentially.
Closed. Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Families are freaking weird, aren't they?
Stiff upper lip, you know, right? The, like, you know, carry on. And
like I can remember sort of like a few a few months ago, I can remember sort of like hugging my mum. Bye. I was like, I love you, mum. And she was like, and just me saying I love you, mum, sort of like emotionally sent her into some sort of like weird kind of like confusion and shock. Like, first of all, because we don't tell each other that we love each other in our family. Yeah. And secondly, and then she just started crying because it was sort of like really emotional for her. Yeah. It was really interesting. Whereas, like, on the flip side, like, I think that like me and the kids and my wife, I think we maybe like tell each other we love each other too much. It's like, I think I was, I think that I tell the kids, I kid you not, maybe like 20 times a day. Maybe more. I just tell them all the time. I'm like, we're sort of like super huggy, and maybe I'm trying to sort of like make up for it not being within my family. So yeah, it's actually quite, man. Families, man. Weird.
I mean, it's so weird. And I too have, you know, I mean, everybody, right, has things in their family that are so hard to bring up, and where it might sound so easy, you know, for me to say, well, have you ever spoken to your brother about that? That might just sound like anathema. Like no, because that's not who we are. It's funny, man. I mean, I will say the times that I have had actual kind of like heart to hearts with my sister, who does, you know, stunts out in New York, and like the times that we have gotten down to a level of talking about stuff that's difficult, or saying sorry, or, you know, in a place where we feel like we need to say something, it always feels like a lift. I mean, really, you know, it does. And even though if it feels a little awkward, like, I mean, I imagine your brother probably really looks up to you. You know, your big brother, right? And, you know, and to say, I don't know, if you ever wanted to say, hey,
sorry
around that time,
full on.
No, I love it. I mean, I don't know. Like, if you ever just wanted to address it, like, not to even say maybe it was wrong, you know, because look what he did. He did all this rugby stuff afterwards. He actually went and did it. Yeah. But man, like, okay, I'll say this. It's not a prescription. I'm not saying you should do this. But if someone were to say to me, "Hey, remember when I gave you that advice?" I feel like I wonder if I could have just spent a little more time empathizing or saying, "Oh man, this is really hard. I'm going to be here for you." Instead of going straight to advice, I wonder if that would have been more helpful to you. Like, if someone said that to me, I wouldn't be like, "Well, that's weird. Well, that's a strange thing to say," right? That's like, "Oh, I can't," like, boy, I don't know. It's it couldn't hurt. I just think it couldn't hurt.
Yeah, man. I think that like there's a bunch of stuff I could pop open there with my brother as well. There's other stuff like there is definitely sort of like guilt for before as well. Oh God, could I even see this? Yes. I'm just gonna say it but I've never spoken to him about it. So he was training to be on the stunt register. Yeah. When he broke his neck. So that's how he broke his neck, actually. So a lot of his friends are actually doing the stunts for James Bond, and I think there was like his mates are doing the Batman film, and I mean, and a lot of those guys that do work doing the stunts in these films, a lot of them have just martial arts backgrounds. Loads of them, in fact, most of them actually. They come from martial arts, and then they skill up in different areas. Now, to go on the stunt register, which is what you need to be insured as somebody. Oh, you'll know this, right? Because your sister, right? But in the UK, to go on the stunt register, because your sister is like full on, right? She's full on stunt. Yeah, she exactly. Is. Yep. So, and she has a martial arts background as well, right?
She has a dance background. I mean, she then did get really into Brazilian jiu-jitsu and I think maybe even some taekwondo, but she started out as a ballet dancer and then ballet and modern.
Into it, got it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. That's super cool. Anyway, he's out in Russia, like doing the martial arts thing, and his friends are doing. Where's all the James Bond stuff filmed? I can't remember the name of it.
Like Siberia.
No, there's like a really famous studio down in London.
Shoot! I wish I knew.
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called. But a lot of them were working there, doing all the stunts and stuff like that. And they were like, "Dude, you should come and do this. This is going to be this is going to be great for you. You're the right height, right build." And he was like, "Yeah, I'm on it." So he was doing all of this stuff, like training up, and he had to do. He said the martial arts covered, but he had to do something like 3 or 4 other disciplines to be placed on the stunt register, like trampolining, rock climbing, high diving. And then I think there was something else. Yeah, like a bunch of different stuff. And being Big Brother, he was, I guess that he was sort of like sometimes, finding it hard and difficult. And I was just sort of like hammering him. I was like, dude, you want this. Come on. I mean, you got to sort of like lean into it. Keep working hard at it. Don't be, look at your friends doing it. You can do this as well. And I was like pushing him, go, 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 go. Do this. And he broke his neck on a trampoline training for it. So I've always felt really, really weird about that. Like really weird that I sort of like pushed him so hard to do it because what he wanted to do. And man, objectively looking at it, I know that. I was just doing the Big Brother thing. I know that. Right. But it still freaking hurts. That really hurts, actually. Yeah. It really hurts. I think the only other person I've ever spoken to that about is Lisa, actually. Wow. Probably when I'm sort of like, down the bottom of a bottle of wine or something like
that. I'm honored, man. I'm honored. I think, that stuff is... that stuff just can alter courses, right? It can, you can think about that stuff forever. And I know that you know this. I mean, but you alluded to this, and not to be Robin Williams, and maybe it's in Good Will Hunting, but it's not your fault.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's something that you need to know, and you need to feel that, like, deep. It's not your fault that your brother broke his neck. I think that's the
problem, right? I think sort of like I know it, but I don't feel it. Like, I know it's not my fault, but I feel, I know that it's not my fault. I know that, just like think about it objectively, but there's definitely somewhere in here is like, you pushed him to do that. You pushed him to work so hard and he ended up fucking up with it. So
that's a huge burden, Scott. I mean, that's like a lot to carry,
Yeah.
That's a lot to carry.
Yeah, it does sort of
It
like,
is.
yeah, it comes up sort of like every now and again, every sort of like when I start thinking about it and in any kind of depth, I'm just like, oh, that old scar.
Yeah. I mean, do you feel like, I mean, I don't know, like, do you feel like that would be something even to just, to say, you know,
to Richard, my brother.
Even that you think about it. Like, again, just, again, never a prescription. Again, like, thinking about it for me, if someone were to say to me, hey, remember this time in your life, I think about that. And I think that sometimes, you know, the amount that I pushed you, sometimes I feel like I had a part in this, and I feel that, and I feel sorry about it. And I feel like it comes up for me and I feel bad about it. Like, I don't think I would think that was strange. I think it would be a gift.
It'd be totally normal, wouldn't it? But, you know, like in our family, we're just a little bit
I know,
close.
dude.
Maybe I'll send him this podcast. I'm like, dude, kind of sort of like I spoke openly about sort of like some shit. You might want to check it out.
I think if I were your brother, if I were your brother, I would want to hear it from you before the world heard about it.
Yeah. God damn you, Ian.
So I think that you
I signed my
maybe
seal.
I think you did. I think maybe subconsciously you talked about it on the podcast because it's something that you maybe want to talk to him about. I don't know. But maybe.
I think so, yeah. I think so.
Yeah.
Good counseling session, dude.
Dude, tell me your brother's name.
Oh, Richard.
Tell me your brother's name. Richard. Yes.
Yeah, Richard Devine.
Richard Devine.
Yeah.
That's a cool ass name. Your family is just it's so cool.
He's a cool dude, man. He's a cool dude.
Janice is your mother, right?
Janice and Roger. It's my dad's birthday today. And I sent him. Yeah, I was on the piano this morning. We'd like record a little video for him and sent, you know, sent him the kids sort of like playing the thing. And he was like, because obviously I've got COVID. So I can't go and see him, right? So, I can't see anybody. So, I've got COVID. But it's okay.
Yes, I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's fine. Actually, like I've been kind of sort of like waiting for it. I'm like, I felt a little left out. Like everybody's had it. I was like, what's wrong with me?
Dude, I know what you mean. That thing of like actually feeling a touch relieved. Now, obviously, hopefully, you know, you don't pass it along and get someone else sick. Hopefully, you don't get super sick yourself. But like, I felt that too when I had it over Thanksgiving in the States, like that I was sort of happy to know what it was and to get through it versus that constant fear of, you know, like, am I going to get it? How is it going to affect me? I know that feeling. It's real. That's a real feeling for sure.
Have you had it twice or just once?
No, I had it once, and then my family, I had that Delta variant, lost smell and taste, that whole thing over Thanksgiving, late November. But then my family got the Omicron, we think, and I didn't get it a second time. So, you know, but they all went through it, and their symptoms were pretty mild. The kids, especially. Emily felt pretty wrecked by it.
Did she?
But, you know, everybody got through it. Yeah. How about your family? Are they getting it? Do they have it?
Kicking back, dude. They've got like Netflix on. I think they're just using it as an excuse. Like, I'm not even joking. Like Lisa was like, dude, she was like, you've got COVID. Like, what are you doing? I was like, I feel fine. She was like, but you've got COVID. I was like, the subtext was, hey, just come and kick back with us and watch Netflix.
Yeah, let's just watch some shows.
Yeah, that's
You're like, no.
I was like, no. No. But yeah, I hate being ill, man. Like if I am ill, I'm like I'm not great. I'm not like I'm not like the man flu guy. I'm sort of like super grumpy because I just will not go to bed and be ill. I'm just sort of like, I just kind of like battle on. I'm kind of like the sort of like, I'm like dragging myself along the floor. You know, like Anakin. Anakin is he's like being melted by lava. Like Anakin's
legs cut off.
Yeah, that's like essentially me. Like legs cut off. I'm like melted by lava. I'm dragging myself on. I will not stop.
Well, I will tell you this. Just be careful with that trajectory because you know how Anakin ends up, right? Spoiler.
Dude, he becomes the base like Darth Vader. Base Vader.
Base Vader.
I'm turning into Base Vader.
Yeah, you don't want that. So you got to, maybe cut it in half, man. Cut that work in half. Go watch that Netflix show.
I watched
with Lisa
that scene,
and the kids.
Dude. I watched that scene with Story. It wasn't the greatest idea. He was writing.
Intense.
Have you watched that with any of your kids?
Oh yeah. We've watched that movie a bunch.
Yeah,
it's brutal.
It's not great. If anybody's not watched it, what film's out of? It's
that's 3. That's episode 3 called Revenge of the Sith.
Yes,
Star Wars, baby.
Yeah, just before, it's like how Darth Vader came to be, and like Anakin's like he's got no legs and he's been melted by lava. His face is all like not great. He's not looking his best.
Yeah.
And I was sitting eating my breakfast, watching this, and I looked left and looked at Story, and Story was just sort of like eyes on stalks. I was like, okay, maybe shouldn't have watched this scene, but it's cool now. Yeah.
It's so intense. Yeah, his legs were cut off by his mentor. I mean, that's like that's a heavy. That creates a supervillain.
In your scales.
Dude, let's not create Base Vader out of you, COVID Scott Divine. Okay, let's not create Base Vader.
Dude, that would be a great meme, sort of like meme based comedy video, like Base Vader. Some like Luke's there and he's practicing his slap licks, right? And like Yoda's Luke, use the force, you will. Use the base force. And then Base Vader just comes through and just like lamps him one.
Base Vader's like, I find your lack of base disturbing.
That'd be so good. I actually would love to do some of them sort of like meme type videos. I think
I know. It'd be so fun.
They're great. Yeah, I love that. There was one called obviously the Dollar Shave Club, right? The Dollar Shave Club, they did a great one.
Yeah.
Dollar Beard Club did some great ones as well.
Yes.
You ever seen them? Yeah.
I think I have, and I'm thinking of a soap company too that I can't put my name on, but they did some fun ones too. There's like a company that makes, fancy organic soap. They've got some great ads. Yeah.
There's some great ones. Hey, have you been watching Boba Fett, the Book of Boba Fett?
Oh, have I? Scott, not only do I watch the episodes, I watch every Star Wars YouTube channel breakdown of all the episodes. Ooh. I mean, dude, I am deep. Have you been watching that show?
I've been watching it, yeah. Like, I'm into it. Story's not into it. He much preferred The Mandalorian, actually. He much preferred The Mandalorian.
Listen. The most recent 2 episodes... I won't tell you anything. The most recent 2 episodes are essentially episodes of The Mandalorian.
Mando's in it.
It's all...
Yeah.
Yes. So Dash wasn't into it either, actually. Dash is a little lukewarm with Star Wars, and Boba Fett, he was like, but he loves Baby Yoda, Mando, right? And so the episodes the last 2 episodes focus on that storyline, and it's amazing.
I think it's because there's a little bit of comedy in there with the Mandalorian episodes.
Yeah.
There's like a certain tongue-in-cheekness about it. There's sort of...
Yes.
And I think that's not in the Book of Boba Fett. Or at least I'm not perceiving it to be that. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah, I think that's right. I think the Book of Boba Fett, too, without this turning into a full-on Star Wars podcast, which it could do at any moment, like, I'm just like Star Wars podcast. I think that it was structured.
You're like a racehorse. You're just like there, just about to go on the race. You're like limbering up like a gymnast.
Yeah. Just swinging the bat with the weight on the end of it, like, let's go. I think that it was structured. I think the show was structured oddly, and I do think they had a tough time figuring out how to play that Tamara Morris character, or Tamara Morrison. I can't remember how to actually say his name, but the actor that plays Boba Fett, I think. It was written a little bit odd for him. So it's in a tough thing because Boba Fett is supposed to be this fearsome, horrible, terrible, feared bounty hunter. So there's not a lot of comedy that they injected into that storyline. And you've got the old school fans going, no, he needs to be a hard ass and he needs to be intense. And then Disney, it's a Disney property, and they're going, well, let's make him accessible to kids. And, you know, and it just it did, I think it did a little damage to that character personally. But the Mando, Din Djarin, and oh boy, and, you know, Baby Yoda, Grogu, like that storyline is so great because it's a new storyline. No one had baggage with that character yet.
Yeah. So do you think that Boba should be like more evil? Do you think he could have been a bit gnarlier?
I think so, because I'm from that old, of the era of the original Star Wars fan where Boba Fett was so mysterious and such a bad guy, man. I mean, took Han Solo frozen in carbonite to Jabba, and dude, he's a bad dude, and his backstory is so tragic too. And so and then now he's kind of like, I've heard people use the phrase beta Fett, which which I was like, it's gross. But then part of me is like, I get it too. I get it. I still love the show. I've been really enjoying it. We've been watching it. The season finale comes out tomorrow. So we're gonna have a little watch party at our house for that. It'll be a lot of fun. Yeah,
dude, let's call it, man.
Hey,
what should we call this show? What should we call this show?
I think we should call. What should we call it? We're gonna figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
Can I say one thing just to bring it back to that idea of calendar organization when we were talking about that midway through the podcast? Something that I want to say is I endeavor to be more organized. Like when I see you do the Trello thing and map out your calendar, that is a goal for me. But if like me, oh faithful SBL podcast listener, you think, I don't know if I'm ever going to do, what even is Trello? I'm not even interested. Something that has felt really good to me, like kind of a hack in terms of getting things done, in terms of productivity, and I know you've used this too, Scott, is just book it. So if you have something that you want to do and you're waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, book it. Put it on the calendar, call the studio, call your mates and say, we're doing this thing on this day. Yeah. And everybody goes, whoa, okay.
And then figure out everything else afterwards.
Yes. And then what will happen is all of the time wasting or all of the other things that you thought were such a big priority in your life may get deprioritized a little bit. Maybe there'd be a little less Netflix because you have to work out the details to get in that studio and do that thing. That's when I find that I am the most productive. Like with SBL stuff too, if I just book it, I know that I have to do it. It's not, I have to do it. If there's a deadline, I know I have to do it. Case in point for me too, there's on Friday, Cara Loudon is coming over and we're going to film some duet stuff. I called Pistol Pete, my friend who's going to come over and film it with the gimbal, and that's just happening. So then I know that before I go to bed, I need to work on a couple of her arrangements but that never would have happened in a million years had I not just said, right, what are you doing on Friday? And she was like, Friday is great. I was like, Pete, you cool with Friday? He's like, Friday is great. I'm like, well, I guess it's happening.
Amazing.
So that kind of thing is a great way. It does not speak to calendar organization, and it probably throws monkey wrenches.
I think it's good. It's just a forcing function, isn't it? It's just sort of like, how do you actually strip out all of the shit and just put a stake in the ground and then just pull the trigger and run. Run for cover. You're like, it's going. It's going.
Yes, exactly. Right, let's go. And instead of thinking of it like force quit, it's force do. Right?
Yeah. When you said that, there was like 4 or 5 different things raced through my mind. I was like, how do small stuff, big. I wonder if you could do it with something big, like something really big.
Yeah, like this has to be done at this time, like that company that I've told you about, VAT19, that sells, giant gummy bears and stuff. Yeah. They do a thing where they do a really ambitious YouTube video once a week, and it happens. And I mean, it's intense, the amount of work that goes into making one of those things, but it's the culture of like, Friday is drop dead. Like all the assets have to be together for this. And, and I'm sure it probably creates a huge amount of stress, and it may not be the right thing for everyone, for every aspect of your life. But I find that for me, especially with creative projects or projects that I'm kind of going, I'm kind of like it's swimming in my head, I just need to set a date. I have to do that. And then it really helps me out.
And then you work back from that date. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
I'm going to think about that, man. I'm going to think about it. Dude, been real. This has been a good one.
Been real. Been amazing. And man,
we'll try and figure out
thank you
what
for sharing. Oh yeah, we'll figure it out. But I mean, that matters little. I think like speaking about that stuff, it's so cool, and it's so vulnerable. It's brave, and like, man, I think it can help a lot of people. Like when you talk very frankly about family stuff, or when we have that dialogue, it makes me feel like, it makes me want to, call up my family. Hopefully too, if you're listening and you heard Scott talk about the incredibly intense situation with his brother, like hopefully as a listener, that makes you think about your life and think about like, is it time to give your family a call? Like, that stuff is important. And so whatever we call this podcast, it doesn't matter. I think the content inside is, if you're listening, it was really, really a gift that you gave today. So thanks, man, for talking about it openly.
Well, you came with me on the journey, mate.
Yeah, man.
Okay, dudes.
Yes, sir.
We will we'll catch you next week. And other than that, take it easy. Bye.
Cheers, everybody.